Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name's Cinderellimouse and I'm here today with early access to the Sims 4 Enchanted by Nature expansion pack. This is courtesy of the EA Creator Network, who do provide me with codes for the Sims 4 expansions. And speaking of expansions, I have multiple packs installed this time. So this means I can test the cross-compatibility features really early. I know this is what a lot of you guys come to my channel for, so I have a bit of extra time to do this and I can get my video up a little bit earlier than usual, which is really cool. I checked with the Sims team and yes, this is allowed. They say it's not recommended because it can mess up the files a little bit, but I'm familiar with working with the Sims 4 files in the background, being an ex-modder, so I'm pretty confident that I've installed everything properly, and most of the things we're going to check are going to be pretty legit. Now the Sims team are still fiddling with this pack in the background. The build that I've got is not final, so do expect a few things may possibly change by the time you guys get your hands on this expansion pack, but it's going to give you a bit of an idea of kind of what is currently going on. Now, with me having multiple packs installed as well, please be aware that I'm not just showing off the new expansion pack. I have all packs, so do verify what comes from which pack before making a purchase. If you are making any purchases of any other packs, including the new expansion pack, you can use my creator code. It's Cinderellimouse on the EA app, and that means a little bit of the money that you spend is going to be sent my way by EA. So thank you so much to those of you who choose to support my channel. So I hope this is helpful, and please let me know your thoughts on this in the comment box down below. If you have any other cross-compatibility questions that I don't answer in this video, let me know and I may potentially do a second follow-up video. So with all that said and done, let's get into it. Now, with this pack having a really strong nature theme, I figured I'd probably start with packs like Eco Lifestyle and Seasons and kind of look at the cross-compatibility there. Now, the new pack comes with a new skill called the Natural Living skill. Now, I love this. Really good if you're playing like without a house. So I don't want to say homeless, because this pack sort of encourages you to live in nature, so like nature is your home, but if you are playing a challenge like the homeless challenge, or perhaps that you are doing something like rags to riches where you start with nothing, then this is going to come in really handy, because it means that you can forage for food, that you can shower kind of in open ponds, and you can sleep on the ground as well. So really useful, really handy if you're just getting started. Now, it's a little bit like if you've ever played with werewolves. Some of the werewolf perks allow you to do similar things like lick yourself clean or sleep on the ground, and I really love that, and this is a way to access those kinds of features without having to play as a werewolf. So I actually really appreciate this skill, and I've enjoyed playing with it. Now, any sim can start out by sleeping on the ground and things like this, and you kind of build up the skill and these things become more comfortable. You basically get better at it. So when you first go to sleep, you're kind of like jumpy, and then you kind of get a good night's rest by the end of the skill. So yeah, really cool. Cross-compatibility wise, you can use this skill pretty much anywhere. So I tested it in quite a few different places, and anywhere where you can kind of access the water. If you click around a little bit, you have to kind of get the right depth, but you can normally find a little spot where you can kind of bathe in open water in any world. You can sleep on the ground pretty much anywhere, and yeah, you can forage for food pretty much anywhere as well. Now, I didn't particularly notice any difference with foraging in different worlds. I pretty much got the same thing anywhere that I went, but it's really cool that you can do this anywhere. You don't have to play in the new world of Innisgreen. Speaking of kind of other worlds, now in Innisgreen, in Everdew, which is kind of like the fairy area, there's this big stone, and if you click on the stone, it allows you to teleport to kind of quite hidden places from multiple different packs. Now, this just isn't like the base game packs, which is kind of like the, what is it, Sylvian Glade and kind of all those worlds that come with the base game, those kind of hidden places. It's a really quick and easy way to get there, but also from other packs. So for example, Sixam, which I believe is the alien world that you go to if you have Get to Work, you can go directly to Sixam. I have never ever been to Sixam, so that is kind of exciting and new for me. You can also go to the peak of Mount Komorebi, which is the big snowy kind of skiing region that came with snowy escape. Yeah, you can go directly there. You don't have to go through the whole climbing skill to get there. They can also take a shortcut to the magic realm. Now this is really interesting because fairies and spellcasters have a little bit of beef. So it's interesting to know that fairies can just teleport directly to the magic realm. I'm kind of wondering about what's going on with that. You can tell your own stories when it comes to that, but I'll talk about cults a little bit later. Now, talking specifically about eco lifestyle and some of the things that come with that pack. Now, the eco footprint that you get with eco lifestyle, I think complements this really, really nicely. I was kind of telling a story about a spellcaster that moved to Innisgreen to kind of pursue apothecary, and she was using her cauldron, and the cauldron is really, really bad for the eco footprint. So I figured, you know, she's trying to get along with the fairies. The fairies don't like her because she's damaging the environment. I had this whole storyline with that going. So I thought that was really, really cool. I didn't manage to progress the eco footprint. I didn't manage to progress the eco footprint badly enough that I kind of had a really negative effect on the environment. But I figured you'd get the similar things that you would normally get, like a few buffs to say that the air quality is bad and things like that. So I think that's complementary rather than particularly cross expansion, but it works pretty well. Now, one thing I did find with Eco Lifestyle is that you can buy the vertical planter from Eco Lifestyle from the new gardening shop that you can find in the neighbourhood of Spruceberry Grove. So along with that, you can find lots of other seeds as well from multiple different packs, including the season seeds. And I checked to see if you could plant the new shrubs. So the Moody Shrub, the Lightning Root, and the Aura Blossom, which are these kind of like fairy plants. These can all be planted in the vertical planter. However, houseplants can't, which is a bit of a shame. I think they'd look really pretty in there. Maybe the Sims team can update that, but it's not a huge loss. Now, another thing that I found here, which is really, really fun, Eco Lifestyle kind of has this whole thing about playing off the grid and needing to make your own electricity and like find your own water and things like that. I think off the grid is actually a base game lot trait, so this is even going to be interesting if you've just got the base game. But the Lightning Root, I think you can hook it up to your electricity supply, and this is going to help provide electricity if you're playing like off the grid. So I did, after a bit of time, check the bills, and it does look like I'm generating my own electricity, and I thought that was such a cool cross expansion like feature. I was really, really excited to see that. It's a really clever idea to have a plant create your electricity. So seasons, a big question for me, especially after Life and Death, is do we have seasons? What are the seasons like in this place? Do we get all the different weather types? From what I can tell, the answer is a big yes. Now, the new world of Innisgreen is actually based on kind of Ireland or Celtic areas, so including like Scotland. And so if I'm British, so I am aware of like what British weather is like, and it's dramatic. So I really actually love this because in The Sims 3 I always associated like fairies with weather and nature, and so to have like quite dramatic weather changes is quite fun. It does mean you're on your toes because you're getting kind of like lightning and thunderstorms quite often, and my poor fairies did get hit by lightning quite a few times. So not only are they worried about the lightning route and kind of like harvesting that and possibly getting like a jolt of lightning, they also have to deal with the lightning from the sky. So yeah. But yeah, so specifically the neighbourhoods of the coast of Ardmore and Spruceberry Grove, which are kind of a bit more of the kind of countryside and town areas, they get pretty much all the weather types. So they had the dramatic kind of thunderstorms and the rain. They also had the snow, and the leaves do change on the trees as well, kind of going into autumn and winter. You know, the leaves are gonna fall from the trees. You're gonna have to rake them up, and you are gonna get like thick, proper snow on the ground in winter. So really good news there, and I think it's really, really nice to see those neighborhoods changing like that. Again, I think it would have been silly to have an Enchanted by Nature expansion pack and not incorporate seasons, so I'm glad that they did that. Now, the interesting thing though is the exception to the rule is Everdew, which is kind of the specific fairy neighborhood. Think about how like the magic realm is specific to spellcasters, so the fairies have like their own little place, and this is really, really temperate. So while the town and the kind of cottage area are going to be thunder and lightning and rain, you actually travel to the fairy area of Everdew, and it is temperate. There's no rain, the sun is shining, there's rainbows. It's really, really beautiful. So it's interesting that that neighborhood has its own weather. One thing I did really want to check is, are the new plants in this pack affected by the seasons? So I checked the 3 new fairy shrubs, the moody shrub, the lightning root and the aura blossom, and I also checked houseplants, and they are all invulnerable to seasons. Now I think I would have liked these to have been season specific, especially the houseplants. I think they should have grown in kind of like spring and summer and then kind of died off a bit in autumn winter, but they're kind of immune to seasons. So I even had a houseplant outside in a planter, and it was thick snow outside, and the houseplant was like, this is fine. Now one thing I really love, actually, talking about seasons and how some of the plants are kind of you know, they will only grow in specific seasons. Now, if you're playing as a fairy and you enchant the plants, and you don't have to be a fairy to do this either, any sim can do it if they have fairy dust, I believe, or you can get like the gnomes to do it. I can't actually remember the specific way of doing it. I'm so sorry. I'm a bit of a dizzy person. If you enchant the plants, however way you approach that, it actually protects the plant from seasons. You don't need to water it, you don't need to weed it or spray it for bugs. It kind of takes care of itself, but it will grow out of season. So if you have a specific plant that only grows in summer, you plant it outside, enchant it, it's going to be growing and blooming and giving you harvestables in winter as well, which I think is awesome. I really love that feature. I played with it quite a bit, and yeah, I'm definitely going to make use of that myself. So another thing with this as well, if you enchant the gnomes and they come alive, they're going to evolve your plants really quickly, and they're going to really boost the quality of your plants. So making those gnomes alive and giving them the kind of like gardening trait, whatever it is, the gardening role assignment, really helps with gardening if that's something that you're into. Speaking of gnomes, so I wanted to try the season's holiday, because one of the holiday traditions is just gnomes, and the gnomes will show up and they will demand like to be placated. You can give them coffee and things like this. Sometimes they'll be angry at you, sometimes they'll be fine. So I triggered this season's holiday with gnomes, and the gnomes showed up, and they just acted like they normally do if you have that holiday. However, when the holiday ended, the gnomes remained behind, and I was able to enchant them then. So if you want to get gnomes on your lot, having that season's holiday is a really good way of getting them to come. They also drop loads of seeds, so again, if your focus is gardening and you want to get those gnomes in to help, the holiday tradition for that is super useful. The gnomes can also be purchased from Plopsy. So I did see like a little flower gnome on there, if that's another way that you want to get them. Plopsy is from the Nifty Knitting expansion pack. I also want to check bees. I don't know, I associate fairies with like insects, and I thought, you know, the little fairies, they can go really small, they can play in like a doll's house and things like that. So I thought maybe that the fairies could also go into the beehive and maybe collect honey in a special way. However, they did not appear to be able to do that, so I was a bit sad about that. One thing that I did find though with the bees that was quite fun, and again, it's complementary, it's not exactly cross expansion, but you can collect the swarm and you can put the swarm in your pocket. And so say you're a fairy and you're kind of like an insect fairy, you can send that swarm out to kind of do a number of different things, including attacking your enemies, which I just thought was really cute. It's really appropriate for fairies to kind of attack their enemies with an insect swarm. So just letting you know that that's a complementary feature if that's something that you're interested in. Moving over to cottage living, so like with the bee house, I wanted to check like the bird tree. You know that like in Henford on Bagley, that's that like little like bird tree stump, and you can go and like sing with the birds there and things like that. I thought maybe the fairies could go inside that, but I couldn't find the interaction to do that, unfortunately, so again, a bit sad about that. One thing though is that if you're a fairy, you get access to this specific fairy ability called Nurture Nature, and now you can use it on a number of different things. One thing that you can use it on is the chickens from Cottage Living. I'm gonna check, and I'm gonna put in footage of like other pets that you can use this on. I specifically checked chickens, and so my chicken was having a really bad time. I'd kind of been neglecting her. Her needs were really low, and I nurture natured on her. It does take a little bit of emotional force to do this, but she was great. She was like, yeah, life is good. So letting you know that there's cross compatibility there. If you want to keep animals, fairies can be really useful for that. Moving over to cats and dogs and the animals that come in that expansion pack. Now there's some extra stuff here with pets where you can nurture nature and kind of replenish their needs, which is great, but they can also replenish your needs. So depending on what like traits you choose when you kind of like skill up and take those fairy perks, some of the things you can take replenish your emotional force by interacting and having like nice interactions with others. So I found that like hugging and petting and being kind to my cat actually replenished my emotional force quite well. So it's worth getting a pet because not only are they good for social, they're also good for fairy emotions. Another thing as well is if your cats and dogs get sick with because cats and dogs comes with like the veterinary career, they come with sickness, nurture nature as well, I believe is also going to cure their sickness automatically. Another thing, when you're using nurture nature on people, which I really like because I like the more positive aspects of being a fairy, at one point I nurture natured on another sim and my reputation went up. Now reputation is from Get Famous, and I thought this was really cool because it was like I was being nice to people and it was improving my reputation. So I'm not actually sure if it was just chance or if it was because I was doing specifically like a good interaction that was helping people, but it happened. So letting you know that that's the thing too. The puppy next door is barking. He knew I was talking about cats and dogs. Nurture nature. Heal, puppy, your needs are met. So circling back around to Nifty Knitting and Plopsy. Plopsy is kind of like an Etsy type thing for The Sims where you can sell your crafts on there. Now I was able to sell my apothecary craftables on there. However, it didn't count towards satisfying the aspiration goal, which I was a little bit sad about. A couple of things that I need to check, but I'll put footage in here, is whether or not selling apothecary using these sales tables that come from a variety of different packs will satisfy the goal or not. Another thing that I want to check, which again I'll insert the footage in editing, is whether or not I can sell the kind of flower press art on Plopsy. So I'll check that and I'll put the footage in here to let you know, but I didn't find any of that on Plopsy, so I'm not sure. I'd like for those things to show up. The thing about Plopsy is that you only get a small number. I think it's about maybe like 5 or 7 items each day that show up on there. And a lot of different crafts from a lot of different packs show up on there. So even though I kept on checking, I didn't see any. It doesn't mean that they don't show up, if that makes sense. If I kept checking for longer, the chance is that some of those new items might show up, but I wasn't able to see them. Moving over to Outdoor Retreat, which is another pack that talks about kind of living as one with nature and kind of being out in the wilderness. So I feel like Outdoor Retreat is also kind of complementary. It comes with things like tents, so you know, using Enchanted by Nature is going to be a way to kind of connect more deeply with nature without having to use a tent if you wanted to do that. It also comes with the herbalism skill, which again I feel like is quite complementary. It also comes with a number of insects in that pack, which maybe again you might want to go and collect insects if you're kind of like an insect related fairy. So complementary. However, I did check to see if the herbalism plants could go into the new indoor planters, and they can't, which is a bit of a shame because a lot of other plants and kind of things that you can grow can go into those indoor planters. However, for some reason, specifically herbalism plants can't, which I don't know why. Explain, Sims team. So talking about the new planters, one thing that I was really excited about is that if you have the pottery skill from Businesses and Hobbies, you can actually craft 2 of the new indoor planters that are made kind of like for houseplants with the pottery system. So I was so excited to see this. I thought that is great. A really good example of cross expansion pack compatibility, the sort of thing that I love to see. And not only can you craft them, you can also glaze them and give them like different looks. I would have loved for these to have actually matched the ones from Businesses and Hobbies. Unfortunately, it's kind of like a new design, but they're still really nice. I did get a bit of a glitch where the glaze that I chose actually kind of glitched out and became like a different vase, so I'm not sure why that happened, but just letting you know there was a little bug there. Hopefully they can get that fixed quite quickly. But yeah, not only can you create them and glaze them, you can also break them. Now I was playing with an evil sim, she kept on going around and breaking the pots, and I was like, stop doing that. The great thing about this is that you can actually repair them if your pottery skill is high enough, just like you can the other pottery, and you can get that kind of like gold vein look. So I thought that was really good cross compatibility, that you were able to do all the same things with the new indoor planters as you can with normal pottery. So thank you very much for thinking of that, Sims team. More of that sort of thing. So this led me to think, what small businesses can I set up with this pack? Now we do have the new profession, which is a naturopath, where Sims will actually come to your house to be healed, which I really love this career. It's as hands-on as you want it to be. You can send your Sim off to the rabbit hole, you can do those work from home tasks, or you can do it like a profession where Sims show up and need to be cured. So I really love the different options that come with this career. Okay, next up, small businesses. So I specifically was interested in setting up my own kind of like homeopathy clinic, my apothecary clinic. Now you can do this anyway through the career, because you can actually have kind of customers come to your home. However, I wanted to know, can I like get employees? Can I kind of expand this as a bit of a business? And so I want to know kind of what was included there. Now for the activities that you can set for the customer, you can have your customers craft apothecary elixirs and also use fairy powers. So again, really cool that those are there. Not exactly what I was looking for though. I would have really loved something to kind of like say, I don't know, receive treatment, something like that. But you can set your customer preferences. So you can have your preferred customers be in the naturopath career. Say you want to kind of like train them up or something. You can also have them specifically be the fairy occult. So if you want to say this business is only for fairies, that's something that you can set up. You can also target customers who have the 2 new skills and the 3 new traits. One thing that I do need to check, because I don't know if I trust my notes, is that I've wrote here that the new natural living skill is not available for classes. Now, I would really love to be able to run classes on both the natural living skill and the apothecary skill, so I will go and fact check that and I'll put it up on the screen in editing. If they're not available, I would love for those to be added, because, you know, I would love to pass on my apothecary skills to others through classes and things like that. Because I think if you are going to target customers who are in the naturopath career, maybe you want to teach them how to do apothecary. I don't know. Also, I checked the employee tasks, and this is where I felt a bit disappointed, because I was looking for something like cure ailments and I couldn't find anything for employee tasks. So I don't even think craft apothecary elixirs was available for employees. So again, if you were looking to have your employees restock your business, it doesn't appear that it functions that way. So I would have liked businesses and hobbies to be a little bit more thought out about, in terms of like, what kind of businesses are people going to run here. I also couldn't see anything for like the flower press or anything like that. So I think there could have been a bit more integration there, a bit more thought put into that. And I hope that gets updated by the time the pack is released. Now, my classic, the one thing I always check when I get my hands on a new expansion pack, is the club system from Get Together. Now, I'm a big fan of the club system. I use it for all sorts of things. I've been using it kind of while I've been playing with this pack already. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with all the stuff that you can do with the club system, with the cross compatibility here. So the naturopath career is included. So again, if you wanted a club specifically with people who are in that career, you know, you could do that. Also, the 3 new traits are available: disruptive, mystical, and plant lover. The apothecary and natural living skills are included there for kind of who you're targeting with your club. The fairy occult is also there, but not plant sims. I was expecting plant sims to be added here, because I know that they've done some updates to plant sims with this pack, but plant sims are not available. Fairies are though. You can have a fairy hangout if you want. You can have your fairy club. What is it, Winx Club? I don't know, I'm a bit old for Winx Club, but yeah, if that's what you want to do, you can do that. There's also new rules. So these are the club rules for the activities that they do kind of when the club is active. You can craft apothecary elixirs, you can use fairy abilities, and you can build the natural living skill. Now, one thing I would have liked to have seen with the fairy abilities option is to have had good, bad, or neutral fairy abilities, because again, maybe I want a fairy group that is all about compassion and making people feel really good. So I'd specifically want those perks that kind of do good things for people, or maybe I want a mischief kind of pixie club where I go around and I cause trouble. Maybe I'd want to use the more negative fairy abilities for that. So I would have liked the distinction. However, it's good that fairy abilities are included. Again, I can think of a lot of reasons why I would use the club system for fairies. Again, maybe I'll talk about occults later, but you can definitely have like a gang of fairies that go around causing trouble for vampires, or a gang of fairies that specifically want to help werewolves with their rage. You know, I can really see a lot like, you know, like Vampire Hunter Fairy Club, like could be really, really fun to play with. And then things like, as well, like just having kind of like a gardening club where you summon a load of fairies. Even if you're not a fairy yourself, you could have fairies come in and use their fairy abilities and kind of like do some gardening for you. Like that would be very useful. So even though with like small businesses I can't get my employees to craft elixirs, I could actually have a club that comes around and kind of like crafts those apothecary elixirs for me. I don't know how I'd get them out of their inventories. I don't know. I haven't thought that through enough. So Lovestruck as well. Now this is a bit of a surprise. I will have a separate video going up on this specific sim, but I created a love fairy to kind of see how she could use her powers in terms of helping people to find love. So she can do this in a lot of different ways. Go and watch that video, because one thing that fairies can do is kind of manipulate emotions. So she can actually get people into a really good mood by taking away their bad emotions and giving them the kind of like the flirty emotion. And so she's able to make dates go better, which I think is really, really fun. And another thing as well is there's a perk that gives you fairy insight, which means that you can really easily learn Sims traits, their preferences, and all kinds of things that really, really help in the dating world. So I'll put a little thing of that up there. Also with Lovestruck, you do get preferences for kind of like what kind of Sims you want to romance, right? You get your turn-ons and your turn-offs. Now, one of these kind of categories is characteristics, which is basically traits, like which traits are you attracted to and which traits do you find a bit of a turn-off. And now in those categories, plant lover and mystical both show up under nature enthusiast, which I think is really, really suitable. And you can also see mystical is also listed under spirited Sims. So that's really, really lovely, the integration there. I do think there's something a bit wrong with this though, because disruptive is currently listed under ambitious and cerebral. And why would cerebral or ambitious Sims be disruptive? I think that disruptive should be under argumentative. So I don't know if there's just like a bit of a coding error there. I don't know if that's a bit of a bug, but I will let the Sims team know about that, and hopefully they can shift that around pretty quickly. I did also check way of life, which is more to do with like what skills you're attracted to, and I couldn't see natural living or the apothecary skill listed there. So it doesn't mean that they're not included, because I would have expected to find those under the nature way of life, but they're not listed. So again, I'll kind of feed that back to the Sims team that maybe they need to take a second look at that and hopefully get that updated. Growing Together has preferences for kind of conversational characteristics. What kind of Sims do you generally get along with? Now, the format for characteristics here is different than the way that Lovestruck handles it. So Lovestruck kind of lists all the different traits. The format's different for Growing Together. So I would assume that the same thing applies even though they're not listed. It's not very clear. Now, with Growing Together as well, Growing Together also introduced milestones. Now, I'm really happy to say that I did find one new milestone. There's probably more, but this is the only one that I've personally found so far. And it's the milestone became a fairy. So that's really cute that they've continued that feature and the integration there. There probably are more milestones. I just haven't found them yet. Another thing that I was really, really excited for, because this has been something that has been missed with other expansion packs recently when they've introduced new careers, is Discover University. So I had my sim apply to university, and I actually found I can't say this word, naturopath career, the new career was listed under the biology degree. So what this means is if you study biology, you're going to get a jump start in certain careers, and one of those is the new career from this pack. And I think that works really, really well because it's kind of like herbal remedies, right? And so having it under the biology degree makes sense because biology, plants, you know, herbalism, It works. So I was really excited to see that because again, it's something that they've missed recently. I was also able to find the apothecary skill listed under electives. Now this is kind of like bonus classes that you can take alongside your degree. Normally all the skills do get listed here. I wasn't able to find natural living, the new skill, but I think it rotates. I don't think every single skill shows up every time you check. So I may have just missed it. I may have just been unlucky and not been able to see it, but apothecary is definitely there. Okay, this is where the pack fell down for me, and I couldn't believe this when I saw it. I really genuinely was expecting this integration to be there, and it wasn't. And it was with the bucket list goals from Life and Death. Now, the Life and Death introduced Soul Journey, which is kind of like long-term goals, kind of like what do I want to do before I die? And they have all different things like wanting to woohoo in all the different woohoo spots, or wanting to visit certain worlds. And I couldn't find anything for the new expansion pack listed here. Again, I don't have the finished build. It could just be that they're getting this in the last minute, but currently I can't see anything. So yeah, no bucket list goals at all. So there's a new woohoo spot for fairies, which they could have listed. There is there's stuff to do with like careers and things like that. There's again, they could have had, I really want to visit Innisgreen and find fairies. There's so many things that they could have added here, and I couldn't find anything at all. So again, I could have missed something. I'll have it up on the screen so you can look through yourself. I couldn't see anything. Really disappointed about that. It just feels like a missed opportunity. But back to the really good stuff. This is where they really thought about the integration, because I guess the Sims team thought, hey, if people like playing with fairies, they probably like playing with all the different occults. And so we've got a lot of cross-expansion compatibility here, or cross-expansion conflict in certain cases. And again, this is the really big win for me. I had a lot of fun playing around with this. Fairies are going to have preferences for different types of occults. Fairies get on really well with werewolves and also mersims. I think because they have this kind of like nature element, and fairies really respect that. So when you meet a werewolf and when you meet a mersim, you're gonna get like a good start off to the relationship. However, if you meet a vampire or a spellcaster, fairies don't like them. They get off on the wrong foot. So you actually get a TNS to say, ooh, that these two are not going to get along very well. Now that does mean you can still make a relationship with a spellcaster or a vampire. You can still talk to them, use positive interactions with them, and build a relationship and kind of get over that initial kind of dislike. But I really like that kind of instant hot take on someone. The reason why fairies don't like vampires and spellcasters is because they find their magic to be unnatural. They're like, this is weird, creepy, dark magic, and they really don't like it. So there's actually interactions to say, like, call them out on their use of dark magic, or, you know, yell at them for their use of like unnatural magic. So I'll put some of these up on the screen so you can see them. I think there's also some extra interactions. I'm not quite sure, because again, sometimes I'm not quite sure if this is something that I've just missed from a previous pack, but there's things like you can talk to mersims and kind of ask them about rainbows and sunshine and things like this. And yeah, there's some really cool new interactions there that I was really excited to see. I did make it my mission to try and befriend Elphaba, because I feel like she should be a fairy. So I was like, I'm going to steal her from the spellcasters and turn her into a fairy, because she should be a mischief fairy. It makes sense. One thing that I did find though, and again, I need to check this a little bit more, I think it's a bit one-sided. So I think these initial likes and dislikes come from the fairy side if you're playing with a fairy, because I was also playing with the spellcaster and I had the spellcaster meet fairies and I didn't get the TNS. So I'm not sure if it bugged out or if it's just specifically when you're playing with a fairy. I would have liked it to have gone both ways. So hopefully they could update that and add that. I think it's a shame if you've got a vampire and vampires are like, fairies are cool, but the fairies are like, vampire, get away. I mean, I don't know, maybe one-sided relationships are fine. Fairies are racist. I can't explain it. There are more things as well here. So there's a new fear. There's a fear of magic. So yeah, your fairies might actually get really paranoid, like if they're hanging around spellcasters in the magic realm, and like develop that fear, which again is really, really interesting. So I wasn't able to actually get this fear myself, but if I do manage to get footage, I'll kind of pop it up. So again, I'm not sure fully about the situations around this, but I think it's really cool that you can develop that fear. And again, you might have a human sim who gets treated badly by fairies and they develop a fear of magic too. Again, I need to explore that more, so don't take anything I'm saying right now as 100% accurate, because again, it's one of those things that can be quite hard to trigger. So I just know it's there. Some more integration with the different occults. So again, fairies don't like vampires, and they actually have an ability called Cure Vampirism. Now you can just run this on any vampire. You can just be like, oh, vampire, hell no, and just cure them of the being a vampire. So I did actually do this on Vlad. I cured him of being a vampire, and it was kind of instantaneous. I think I would have liked it to have been a little bit more work. Maybe I would have had to have like a specific elixir to be able to do it, but yeah, it's just instant. It's just kind of like no more vampirism. Fairies are that powerful. Another thing that they can do, which is really, really helpful, and in terms of like good integration if you're living alongside werewolves, is that you can actually soothe the beast on werewolves, which reduces their rage entirely, and it actually reverts them back to their human form. So if you've got a werewolf and they're raging and you want to calm them down, or they're on the brink of changing, just soothe the beast and they're fine. So yeah, I really love that, the idea of like werewolves and fairies just get on really, really well. And again, you could also have like maybe a fairy apothecary and, you know, their friend the werewolf, and the werewolf goes out and finds them kind of like different things that they can use in their apothecary. Maybe you could have a werewolf who really loves natural living and foraging, and yeah, you could have a really, really complementary relationship there between a werewolf and a fairy apothecary. Apothecary. So another helpful thing that fairies can do with mermaids, again, mermaids and fairies are like this. They can do this to plant sims and mer sims. Anything where the occult really, really likes water and they need to stay hydrated, is that they can use this new interaction called water healing, which again is specific to mer sims and plant sims. And this is going to refill their water need instantly. So yeah, fairies are out there doing Mother Nature's work and really, really helping out kind of these complementary occults. I couldn't really see any new interactions with spellcasters other than just basically being like, your magic's unnatural, I feel weird around you. But it's really cool that like you have all those different kind of situationships with other occults, and again, I think they handled that really, really well. One thing that I wasn't able to do that I really wanted to check was, and again, if I'm able to check it and I get it up on time, I'll put this in the editing here, I wanted to actually check like what happens when you do the dueling and the fighting with different occults, because I really like it when so for example, when a werewolf fights a vampire, they use their relevant animations for that. So I was like, what happens if a fairy fights a vampire? Am I just going to go in and brawl them, or am I going to use specific kind of like fairy spells? Same with spellcasters. And one thing that I didn't see that I would have really, really liked to have had would have been fairy duels with spellcasters. So not just fighting, but actually being able to duel the spellcasters in a friendly way and have them build their magic skill and us build our kind of fairy abilities. I think that would have been a really fun thing to see, but I didn't find it. So again, I'll put some footage up if I do find anything in editing. Another cross compatibility thing here that I was able to find was a new elixir with the apothecary skill called Supernatural Shield. Now it says that this elixir actually protects you from the bad magic of all these different occults. So say you're a human and you need to go and fight a vampire, maybe you need to knock on Vlad's door and kind of sell him some potions. You can use Supernatural Shield, and this just means that Vlad can't use any of his magic on you. So he can't mind control you, he can't force you to let him feed off you or anything like that. Now again, this is something that I tried to check, but I think I misunderstood what it did, because it didn't add a buff or anything like that. I used it on my fairy sim, it didn't add a buff. So I think it's more of something that you take and it protects you from the magic of occults, but maybe it doesn't work as fairies. I'm not 100% sure. It confused me, I'm going to be honest. But it's cool that it's there. Apparently there is another elixir. There was kind of like a Sims blog. I'll put the note up. But I wasn't able to see that one. I couldn't find it in my own game. So I don't know if I just missed that. I don't know what was going on with that. I'm not perfect. I missed some things. I thought it'd be really, really cool. Again, I would have liked this. I understand that it's not a thing. It's kind of something that I personally would have thought was cool. But I went to the Realm of Magic to see if my fairy could use the orbs. So you can get these orbs if you're a spellcaster, which are kind of like familiars, and have your little familiars follow you around. Now they're specifically designed for spellcasters, but there's one that's like a butterfly, and there's a couple of others that I thought would really, I think there is actually a fairy familiar, so I would have really liked my fairy to have had like a little fairy familiar or a butterfly following them around. Unfortunately it is only spellcasters that can use the familiar orbs. It's a shame, but if you have a spellcaster, you can have them have like a fairy familiar orb, and kind of, I don't know, do a bit of storytelling there if you want to. I also thought it'd be cool if fairies could use wands. They couldn't. It's fine. I didn't think to check brooms because fairies can fly anywhere instantly anyway, but maybe I'll get some footage of that if that's the thing they can do. Another thing that disappointed me, I couldn't see anything new for fairies with crystal creations. Now, I love crystal creations. It's basically a pack where you can take crystals and kind of turn them into different shapes, and they all have different magical abilities. You can also make jewelry out of them, and there is jewelry and crystals that help with other occults, like there's one that can summon the Grim Reaper. There's one that I think it's like Moonstone that can help you to regenerate your kind of spellcaster power or vampire power. I think there's one that reduces werewolf rage. So I was really, really expecting integration for fairies with that, maybe something added to the Moonstone for them, but I couldn't see fairies mentioned anywhere. I would really, really love them to update that, to add at least one thing to help with fairies. Again, really disappointing. However, even though there's no cross-pack kind of like functionality there, it's very, very compatible because, again, if you're getting into kind of like nature magic and healing, I think it's really nice to use kind of like the healing crystals and to charge them under the light of the moon. I think it complements fairies really, really well, as well as like planting the crystal tree with a crystal seed. I think the crystal tree just looks really, really nice if you're playing with fairies, to have that kind of magical plant in the gardens. So I recommend it, even though there's no specific fairy functionality there. It's kind of nice to complement. One thing that they are affected by are the moon phases. Now, I believe moon phases were patched to the base game, but they originally, I think, came with werewolves and then got expanded on with crystal creations from what I remember. But the moon phases, so kind of like having like no moon and a full moon, it does affect fairy powers and abilities like it does other occults. So when the moon is full, fairies are going to have an easier time with their emotional force and keeping that high, and it also reduced the costs of using abilities. So the emotional force is going to get drained less when you use fairy magic. So yeah, a full moon is a really good time to be a fairy, guys. Go out and cause mischief. There's a new feature with this new expansion pack called emotional balance, where you need to keep your emotions in check. If you have a lot of bad moods, if you have a lot of bad buffs, you can get really out of balance. You know, if bad life events happen, it can really kind of sway your sim. Now, unfortunately, I'm a little bit too good at looking after my sims, and they were constantly more or less max emotional balance. So I wasn't really able to test this. I'm just too good at being a simmer, guys. So what I wanted to check was Spa Day, because Spa Day has a lot of stuff to do with wellness and emotional balance. So you can meditate, this can get you into like a fine state, and I wanted to see kind of the compatibility there. So I was trying to get my sims out of balance to get like really bad emotional balance, to see if the yoga and meditation would correct that. But I wasn't able to check. What I am going to say is I think it's going to be really complementary, because one of the things that get you out of balance is having bad buffs and bad moods, and yoga and meditation can regulate your sims and kind of give them the fine buff and kind of remove more negative emotions faster. So again, I don't know if there's specific features there like for cross compatibility, but they are complementary. They will work well together, even though I wasn't able to test it. Other things as well, I just feel like Spa Day is going to complement kind of the neuropathy career in this pack really, really well, because again, you could get all your clients together and run like yoga classes and teach them kind of different ways to self-regulate. So a lot of complementary features there. I think yoga, meditation, the crystal creations, things like making crystals and selling those alongside your apothecary stuff is going to be really, really nice. It's what I'm going to do anyway. My tummy's rumbling. Like run a little apothecary shop, like a little magic shop, and have like the crystals and the apothecary things, and have like Sims doing meditation and wellness alongside kind of the features that you get from neuropathy, and as well like the tarot from Life and Death. I think all these things are going to work really, really nicely together. If you're a bit of a hippie like I am, these are things that I'm interested in real life, so I'm glad that they translate into the game really nicely as well. Another thing that I wanted to check was occult nectar. Now Horse Ranch introduces nectar, and if you are a vampire, spellcaster, werewolf, you are going to find that there's like specific nectars for you. Now I wasn't able to see a fairy nectar. Again, I have a little bit of trouble getting these nectars to show up in the first place in my game, so it could be that they're there, I just can't see them. But I did have my fairy max out the nectar skill, and I couldn't see any fairy specific recipes. So again, that's something I feel like was missed. It would have been really cool to see, but again, it's not a big deal. It's just I'm a bit disappointed that that's not there. Another thing as well is you can't put any of the apothecary ingredients into the juice fizzer. So if you were looking to make like aura petal juice, that's not something you can do either. Again, not a huge deal, it's just a side note. I wanted to mention it because it's something I checked. Finally, and I think this is all I could think about at this time. Again, I might, in editing, if I find anything else, I'll pop it in here. One thing that I do really like is that they did a update to the collections tab. So this is nice cross compatibility, because it does mean that instead of everything being really, really spread out and quite hard to find, they've kind of minimized things and put everything under like these different like tabs. So now kind of like if you're looking for herbalism plants with outdoor retreat, there's like a specific tab for that. You know, if you're looking for tarot cards, there's like a little tab for that. So again, it's just an update to the UI, but it is nice because it's a cross compatibility feature that you may not have noticed yet, and I wanted to just mention that here. I can't talk anymore, it's been a long video. I've done a lot of research. Again, if there's anything else I find, I'll kind of make an update. I'll do a second video. If you've got any questions for that, anything you want me to check, let me know down below in the comments. I will get on it, because I'm always going to miss things. There's always things that I think of later and I think, oh, I wish I'd checked that, I wish I'd checked that. So if you've got any ideas, let me know down below and I will check those things for you. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Again, there's some wins and there's some misses. The big wins for me are all the integration with the cults. Again, I think they could have gone a little bit further with that, but I do love what's there. I love that they've thought about who do fairies get along with and why. Another thing is, personally, because I love gardening, I love anything to do with crafting, so all things like the integration with eco lifestyle and seasons I think is really, really exciting. So for example, with eco lifestyle, you can have like the neighborhood action plans, and you can have ones for like you know, having a really nice eco-friendly street, or you know, gardening initiatives and things like this. The traits as well that come with eco lifestyle, so things like green fiend, reduce and upcycle and things like that are also going to be really, really fun to play with. And I love as well like the lightning route. It can be a source of electricity if you're living off the grid. So there's a lot of stuff there that I'm excited about. There's a lot of stuff there that I know I'm going to really, really use in my own games. And yeah, I would actually say, considering I didn't want fairies, I was like, I could take them or leave them. I was like, fairies are cool, but it's not something that I like desperately want. The pack itself, Enchanted by Nature, it touches on all the things that I enjoy, and it kind of makes that a deeper experience. I love playing with the cults, I love playing with gardening, I love eco-friendly features, I love crafting things, especially things like, you know, the flower arranging, not flower arranging, although flower arranging comes with seasons if that's something else that you want to do. That's a really, really lovely skill for a fairy to use. Oh, as well, candle making comes with eco lifestyle, so I could have a fairy that makes candles. I really love this kind of stuff, and again, whether or not like if you do want to use my creator code Cinderellimouse, if you're buying any extra packs, it does send a little bit of money my way. So thank you for those of you who do that. You don't have to do that. Whether I have my creator code or not, I would still be making cross expansion compatibility videos because it's something that I'm very, very enthusiastic about. And I know that you guys are interested in this too. So this is why I'm making these videos in the first place, because it's what I want to know. And if I didn't have early access, I would be looking for the creators who are telling me the cross compatibility, because it's what I'm interested in when I'm buying a pack. So again, I'm doing this because I know that it's the sort of thing that I would want to know. So again, whether or not you use my creator code, absolutely fine. Whether or not you want to buy any other packs, absolutely fine. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you my thought process. So thank you for hanging out with me. And yeah, let me know your questions down below. I'm going to go because I'm just waffling at this point. But I will see you guys again soon. Go and check out my other videos as well. I'm going to have one on my Love Struck Fairy, my Love Fairy. I'm also going to have videos on kind of like werewolves and a fairy that's going to get like look at animals quite a lot, and kind of like cats and dogs and cottage living. So go and check those videos out and see what you think. And yeah, I will see you again soon. Bye friends.